Hey everybody, Steve here. Before we get into the episode, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our guest's new album, Photonia by Shrouded Day. It is a techno, flute, new age album, and I think anybody that's a fan of the type of music we review will really like it. So go check that out. It is available on every major streaming platform. Let's get into this episode.
Hello and welcome to Side 1, Side B with Dave and Steve. I'm Dave.
And I'm Steve.
And we have a guest with us today. This is Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Greetings and salutations. I'm Dan.
Unless you want to use a pseudonym for the episode, in which case you can definitely do that. We'll just redo that if you do.
Okay. I am the Shroud. Call me by none other.
Do we want to do that? No, okay.
That's what I call myself on stage. So,
Dan is the man who pretty much is responsible for our theme song.
Yeah.
I am.
Well, it's Dan and me a lot of the time because it was me playing with Dan. Like a lot of it was me playing with Dan's equipment and him teaching me how to do it. But yes, it's our theme
Gotcha.
song. Our theme song is non-Euclidean pornography.
Well, that's a good choice.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Anyway, so we are in Lucid Fugue together, so that will be our pluggables. Check out our latest release, Artificial Flesh. Let's check out this dick pic.
Okay, so what do you guys know about the city of Cleveland, Ohio?
Home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if memory serves. That's about it.
All right, yeah, that is true. Do you know anything about the band Pere Ubu?
I have never heard of that band.
Steve?
Same.
Okay.
I don't know what Cleveland, Ohio is. That's is that in Russia? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen Pere Ubu's name like in places when I'm reading Wikipedia articles and stuff like that, but I've never actively listened to anything from them.
Okay.
Is it related to Ubu, that dog from the old 80s, production company? Sit, Ubu, sit.
No, it's where the name comes from. I'll do that part first in my introduction to the band. It comes from a experimental French play called Ubu Roy, which is about a corrupt king who gets killed and all that. But it's these are art fucks. Do you remember that punk compilation we did, which is going to be a few episodes back at this point, Steve? You remember how on the first side there's this song called Sonic Reducer by a band called the Dead Boys?
Yeah.
So the Dead Boys used to be the Dead Boys were from Cleveland, and their guitarist and their drummer used to be a part of this band called Rocket from the Tombs, which included the lead singer of Pere Ubu and one of their guitarists.
Oh.
And the Sonic Reducer was actually co-written by the lead singer of Pere Ubu, whose name is David Thomas. He is not the Wendy's guy.
That's what I was saying.
That'd be pretty funny if David Thomas was an art punk guy on the side when he's not doing Wendy's.
Yeah. But yeah, Pere Ubu was, at the time of this album, I brought their debut album, which is called The Modern Dance. By this point, they'd been around for a while. They had released a bunch of singles before this with slightly shifting lineups throughout this, and when they finally stabilized with the lineup, this is when they put out this album. I'm going to get it a little bit more into what their earlier lineup was later after we listen to some of the songs. But their lineup at this time was Tom Herman on guitar, Scott Krause on drums, Tony Maimoni on bass, Alan Ravenstein on synths, and David Thomas on vocals. What do you think of this cover?
Well, let's see. It looks like that is a member of, I want to say, the 20s working class in front of an industrial landscape, and he's dancing.
Yes.
Modernly.
Yes.
On the back, it's basically the same scene, more or less, but it's a photograph. It's not a person dancing, but it's a working class person in front of an industrial landscape, and the credits and the song titles and all that stuff are in cursive.
Yes.
So I'm seeing a guy on here, and he looks pretty happy. I'm probably stereotyping here, but just based off the hat and the shoes, I'm going to say he's French. Looks like he's doing some ballet, honestly.
How can you tell? I didn't see a baguette, and
No baguette. Well, there's one in his pants. I can tell. It's pretty big balls. So there's that. But he's wearing some gloves, too, so maybe he's kind of working construction, moonlighting as a ballet dancer. I'm not sure. The smokestacks are vaguely reminiscent of a Pink Floyd album, as well as on the back, just in terms of their visual strikingness. Yes, definitely black and white, not a whole lot of color going on here. But it looks like I'm getting kind of a sense almost like a happy protest. I don't know why. He's like waving his flag saying, "Down with capitalism." I don't know.
Yeah. The cover to this is a reference to like Maoist agitprop. The band is not Maoists, but they were having some fun.
Gotcha.
This is 1978. Cleveland is a very industrial city, so yeah, it does that's why there's all the smokestacks and all that. This was what they knew.
Since I have to link everything with Black Sabbath, they are also from a very industrial location full of smokestacks. So
Yeah. Well, since I have to link everything with Joy Division, like Manchester, it's an industrial wasteland full of alienated youth that do very creative things because they're bored. Like David Thomas has even said, like in interviews, that for him it was just like the oppressive boringness of the Midwest, which was a lot of what drove his music. He says that there's no like political intent behind it. He was just conveying that's how he felt.
at the time of this recording, not the latest episode, but the one before that was the one that we did on Big Black Atomizer. So I imagine perhaps we're going to see some similarities and themes based on what you just said there.
Somewhat, yeah. This is going to be a little more abstracted. But yeah, this was the scene that they came from in Cleveland. They were the second most successful band from that. They were technically the most successful band from Cleveland itself, but Devo came out of Akron, Ohio, and was part of the whole scene, which is the college town that's near Cleveland. So it's not as industrial, but like Devo ended up getting huge. But the other bands from this scene, there was Racket from the Tombs, which shared members with them in the Dead Boys and fell apart. Dead Boys became pretty successful, but in the punk way. They did move to New York and had most of their success in New York. Then there was like another band called the Electric Eels, which was much more of a shock rock type thing. Another band.
The Electric Eels.
Yeah.
Shock rock.
Yeah. Then there was like the Pagans.
A bit on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to giggle about that for
We're
like
gonna
20
soak
minutes.
you.
A lot of my sources for this was Dave Thomas has put a lot of this stuff up on Pere Ubu's website, which is ubuprojects.com, but also their original guitarist who had died by the time this album dropped. We'll talk about him later. Wrote a lot about the band's early days, Peter Laffner. He was a journalist also, so like a music journalist, so I read a lot of what he said about like the band's formation. Then there's a really good book that covers a lot of this stuff called From the Velvets to the Voidoids, The Birth of American Punk Rock by Clinton Hyland, which is just a very, very good source. It covers a lot of the same material as Please Kill Me, but it gets more into some of the artier bands like Pere Ubu and Suicide. So it's a good source on that. But yeah, this is their first album, The Modern Dance. It's a bit of a departure from their earlier singles. Their earlier singles were kind of like darker and heavier. This one, with Peter Laffner no longer in the band, the sound got kind of brighter.
Oh, okay.
But we will put it on and discuss later. This is side one of The Modern Dance by Pere Ubu, and this vinyl is really thick.
All right.
That's what she
Throw
said.
this on and listen to it and then circle jerk.
And we're back. That was side A of The Modern Dance by Pere Ubu. Fellas, what'd you think?
Well, I like the bass playing. That's the first thing that stuck out to me musically. A lot of my opinions are going to be musical in nature because that's just what I'm listening to most.
That's why we brought you for this album.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good then. The bass playing was very catchy. It was prominent. You could tell that the guy was competent, seemed to be having fun. I could almost hear him bouncing around. that's from the first track that I noticed right away was that, which I think was it called All Because of You, or was that just what I kept hearing over and over again?
Non-alignment pact.
Non-alignment pact. Oh, okay. Interesting.
I found it really interesting. I found it very eclectic. I also imagine it's a very hard listen for anybody that isn't really into genre experiments like this. It took me a bit to get used to the vocals, but when I started to listen to it in a more like, I started picturing him more like in a Lord Such kind of sense, where it's, oh, he's like a raving lunatic kind of. And once I started picturing it that way, I started enjoying it a lot more.
The vocals were initially a barrier for me to get into the band. Now I fucking love them. I love David Thomas's weird voice. It's interesting, like, for him, his vocals were a roadblock for him. He hated his voice at first. But Peter Laffner, the guitar player who died at age 24 for wanting to live like Lou Reed, how Lou Reed portrayed himself as a callback to the other episode, like really liked how his voice fit with what the rest of the band was doing and was really pushing for him to be the vocalist. David Thomas started off as the vocalist in Rocket from the Tombs, but then when everyone but Peter Laffner, including David himself, hated his voice, they moved him to like organ and saxophone. But then after Rocket from the Tombs broke up, David was like, some of these songs need to be released. We need to put them out. And he recruited Peter Laffner, and Peter Laffner was like, yeah, but you're the vocalist. And so so he stayed on as the vocalist for the band, and he really made it work. Once you get past it, I love it. I wouldn't want to have the vocals any different.
Yeah, there was never a moment where I was turned off by it, because a lot of times I'll hear a vocalist and I'm just completely turned off by it. But instead, there were just some moments I just thought were goofy and funny, and I think that's an acceptable way to interpret it, and I like that.
And as someone who initially hated his own voice, like, it was this guy and David Byrne from Talking Heads when I was listening to them, like the early Talking Heads record, like Talking Heads 77, when he's not on key very much. I was just like, fuck it, I'll just do it. This album was very important for me for becoming a musician, but it wasn't just the vocals. It was Alan Ravenstein's synth. Alan Ravenstein kind of joined the band like the last of the initial members. This isn't the first bass player they'll have. I'll get into that in a little bit, but like out of the initial lineup, so it would have been everyone on this except a different bass player and a second guitar player. Yeah, Alan was the last one to join. He was their landlord's son, who was like the property manager, who just kind of let them do whatever and didn't tell his dad, and he would just like smoke a lot of weed and play synthesizers. And he kind of conned his way into the band. He quit the band in like 1990 and is now like, he's probably retired by now, but became an airline pilot.
Oh,
yeah.
Giving him something in common with Bruce Dickinson.
Yeah, although he quit music to become an airline pilot. But he was in the band for a long time. This band is still around, by the way. But this is the synthesizer he was playing, EML Electrocomp 101. It's like in a suitcase. A suitcase is built into it.
I'm imagining like a spy going down an empty subway, pulling this out and typing in some kind of like computer code.
Yeah, he was definitely more of a knobs and wires and wheels guy than a keyboard player.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely explains why a lot of your synth playing I heard in this album.
I'm just imagining Dave as a very little boy sitting there in his bedroom going, I want to play synth just like this when I grew up.
Well, I was in my 20s, but yeah. But
I want to play synth just like this when I grew up.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like a lot of white noise, a lot of like
ambience.
Yeah, ambience.
Didn't you and Dinger kind of start Gong Farmer? Then you're like, all right, we'll learn how to play instruments now.
Well, yeah, Dinger already knew how to play guitar, but I bought a synth with my tax return wanting to play it like this. Basically, and then I was like, well, I know this guy who plays guitar. And that's how the band started.
And the rest is history.
My first introduction to your synth playing, Dave, was when we started Lucid Fugue, and I was like, oh, is this what it's going to be like?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna get on board with it.
Yeah. He was really a pioneer in synth playing. Like there were a few bands who were doing stuff like this at this time. Like you said, Hawkwind at one point. Like, and then you can hear some of this kind of stuff on like Captain Beefheart or Pink Floyd, stuff like that. This was at about the point where synthesizers were starting to become affordable. So this is when kind of like the talented amateurs could really just like take off and explore what the instrument could be before the synthesizers were either owned by big stadium bands who were using them to try to recreate the sounds of orchestras, or by colleges who were using it to try to recreate the sounds of orchestras. And as you're starting to get into the mid to late 70s and cheaper models were starting to become available to normal people, people really started to find sounds that were native to it, including this, which had nothing to do with playing the piano keyboard and everything to do with, let's twist this knob to make it fit the mood of the song, which is alienated and anxious.
Yeah, you mentioned Pink Floyd, and when we go through the tracks, I'll elaborate on this, but I was reminded of Pink Floyd's Uma Guma album quite a few times listening to this.
Yeah. And then, since we haven't mentioned him yet, Tom Herman on guitar, just a motherfucking beast. He was doing that whole classic Chuck Berry style, stomping rock and roll thing, just coming fast out of the gate. The beginning of the first track, non-alignment pack, there's just the bass and synth just kind of building for a while, and then just cuts right in with the riff, and it becomes just like a fast and furious rock and roll song at that point.
I did note that the guitar playing was very reminiscent of 50s, 60s rock and roll. I was thinking The Who, or I was thinking Rolling Stones at one point. And then I also thought that some of the songs, especially with some of the keyboard sounds, almost reminded me of the Doors in certain spots.
Yeah. At one point, David Thomas joked that the left side of the stage and the right side of the stage were the two different sides of the band. On one side, there was the bass, drums, and guitar playing, some pretty straightforward and kick-ass rock and roll. And then on the other side, there was the vocals and the synths doing, the weird arty shit. So he, David Thomas would refer to it as the art side of the stage and the Panzer tank side of the stage.
I think that does a disservice to the Panzer tank side of the stage, personally.
Oh, yeah, Tom Herman's thought so, too. He got mad. Oh. Yeah, they were really good.
I look at it more as the balance between order and chaos.
Yeah.
From the Marvel comics. Can we mention other things in this?
Yeah, you can mention other things.
Like Lord Chaos and Master Order in Marvel Comics. That's kind of what I imagine on stage. And you had mentioned The Who, and that's one of the things that popped in my head, too, when I was listening to this. I got that feel. Strangely enough, I just saw Roger Daltrey perform the other night at the Memorial Park concert, which was pretty freaking amazing. So I'm kind of already in that mood to begin with.
The Who were a band that did a good job at balancing out fast, furious, hard rock and more arty inclinations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And definitely captured a lot of the angst as well. You mentioned that earlier, the angst of this. Now, we're going to go through these tracks individually.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save some of my comments here for those, but that's my overall impression, was that 3 different vocal lists that this guy had reminded me of at certain points, and I'll bring those up in the track by track. But
yeah, he's more versatile than he seems at first, too. Yeah. Quick shout out, since we also haven't shouted him out yet. Scott Krause, the drummer, really good, just really solid.
Yeah.
He didn't overdo with the fills, but he was really good with the fills, and he and Tony, the bass player, just locked in together really well. It's more danceable than some of the art stuff that I've listened to, but in the rock and roll style dancing, not like in the electronic style dancing when we did another kind of similar but very different album earlier with Cabaret Voltaire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more of the bouncing up and down kind of dancing that I would imagine in this one.
Yeah.
One thing I noted when listening to it, overall, this first side had a lot of live music energy mixed in with things like tape loops, and I have to imagine that's very difficult to pull off.
They're a great live band. It's funny that they have a reputation of being a great live band, but they gave away an early, first lineup release of their live set that isn't very good for free. And so I think it's funny that they did that, kind of we're a great live band. Here is a disappointing performance that you can just have. But yeah.
So as per usual with these bands that I imagine in your head, Dave, they subvert the expectations, or try to subvert the expectations of their audience, or at least a mainstream audience, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's part of the art of punk, in my mind anyway. At least what I've gathered from you, from my naive perspective.
Well,
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something that you totally won't like, but you're gonna like it anyway, because you're not supposed to like it, but you're supposed to like it.
Yeah. In the late 80s, they broke up for a while in the mid 80s and got back together with most of the original members. But like when they got back together in like the late 80s, at that point, it was, we might do one of those albums later, so I don't get too much into it. But when they did, they brought in Scott Krause, but also the drummer who was working with David Thomas for his solo stuff. And so they were doing like this, two drummer sound thing. But that was when they were making their poppiest music ever, is when they were a 2-drummer band.
Well, you can't help but be poppy when you have 2 drummers.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a metal band that had 2 drummers? And I just remember their song was "Connect the Goddamn Dots." That's what I remember from the chorus. Connect the goddamn dots.
Oh yeah,
it was 2 drummers.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't think I know.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it.
Well,
but usually
I usually don't stump you guys.
Yeah.
That was
Usually when a band has 2 drummers, though, they're doing it to be heavy, not necessarily like
it was definitely
more
heavy.
poppy. Yeah.
Right.
Melvin's had 2 drummers for a while, but that doesn't sound like Melvin's.
You should just type in "Connect the Goddamn Dots" in
Yeah.
Google and see what comes up.
But while you do that, we'll start going through the songs. First track, Non-Alignment Pact, started with kind of a
Monolith Death Cult. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Connect the Goddamn Dots. That's what the song is called.
Well, thank you for connecting the goddamn dots.
Thank you for connecting the goddamn dots. Non-Alignment Pact, first track. It was, it started off with kind of like a slow experimental thing with like the synth and the bass, and the guitar kicked in, and it became just like an awesome, just kind of like rock and roll song. Lyrics are kind of like a breakup song, but it's also kind of making fun of how many love songs and breakup songs are in rock and roll. Just like when he's listing like the girl's 1,000 other names, and they're all like generic rock title names. Like Barbara Ann and Peggy Sue, yeah.
I love that because, as I mentioned in the Diano episode, I'm not really a big fan of love songs, but I do like the reversal there of making fun of it.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good opening track for the whole album, because it, by starting, kind of like weird and slow and artistic, and then kind of kicking it up a notch for like a fast rock and roll song that's making fun of like rock and roll songwriting tropes. I thought it was like, it kind of let you know what you're in for the whole album. Like it communicated the whole mood of what was to come really well.
Yeah, overall, I like the song's like live energy. At first, I didn't know what to make of the vocals. I'd mentioned previously that I tend to not prioritize the vocalist in my listening experience. I didn't conventionally enjoy it at first. It was easy for me to just put aside and focus on the music. But eventually, I was just like, oh, he sounds like a raving madman, and that's really cool. And then I really like the keyboard playing on it, and I put keyboards sound like the song is getting abducted while they're playing it.
Yeah. Do you have any notes on the first track, Dan, that you want to share?
Not as many on the first one, no. I was more kind of get into. I had the same thought as Steve, but also less so because I knew that you brought this album, so I had a certain expectation about what to expect based on the album. And it was slightly less anarchic than I thought it was going to be vocally.
Yeah. Next track, Modern Dance. If anyone's wondering what the backup vocals are repeating, it's merda merda, which is French for shit.
That makes more sense than what I put down. I thought it was Manda Manda.
Yeah.
And then I put down, was it like Amanda Hug and Kiss or something?
Yeah, that's a cool song. It makes a lot of use of tape loops, probably. Most of the side so far, although there's some other songs that use it. That one, they had a version that they released as a single early. It was like earlier, it was after Peter Lafner had died, and they were trying it with like a blues guitarist who they weren't clicking with, but they released it as a single, and then they re-recorded it with just the one guitar this time.
Yeah, this was the one that I put in the notes that it reminded me of the Doors. And then
we're recording this around the 4th of July, in case you catch any fireworks.
Well, I didn't catch up my dad's weed whacking, so it probably didn't pick that up.
Here the tip has been whacking in my camper.
Overall, what I really liked the tape loop stuff. I thought they were like recording like crowd noise, and I mentioned that, and you said, no, it's just tape loops.
Yeah. That was another thing that Alan was doing, was like the tape stuff.
Well, it's tape loops of crowd noise, though,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I don't know where they got
actual.
Yeah, maybe they picked it up at one of their shows. I don't know for sure where they got it, but yeah.
Well, there was a moment there where the vocalist was channeling Stevie Nicks with that.
Yeah.
Definitely heard some sheep there.
Yeah.
For a moment. And did they start off with a rain stick? Was that a rain stick at the beginning?
It might have been. They do a lot of weird percussion stuff too.
I was ready to sit back and relax when I heard that. I was like, all right.
And then nope.
Nope.
There's a theory that the lyrics to this are about like Peter Laffner's life falling apart, him becoming hard to work with, getting fired from the band, and then dying. I don't think that's been officially confirmed, but that's what a lot of people say. And we'll get more into that later because there are multiple songs that people think are about this. Like there's a theory that Dave Thomas has said isn't true, that this first album, despite only having one song written by Peter, is the Peter album. Their second album, Dub Housing, is the Tom Herman, the living guitar player album. And then the third one, New Picnic Time, is the David Thomas album.
What's the other one called, you said?
Dub Housing.
Dub Housing. That's funny.
Yeah.
That
Dub
sounds-
Housing is
That
some
sounds
people,
like a bad B-movie villain from an old German, like, 80s movie.
Dub Housing. It's referring to reggae, like dub music, but yeah. But yeah, that was, Modern Dance. Next track, Laughing.
That was the one I thought sounded like Pink Floyd's Uma Guma album, where they're just making weird, random noises. And I loved the weird oboe stuff, and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, the weird oboe stuff, and then, that's like a musette, which is like a soprano oboe type of thing. And it sounds a lot like it complements David's voice, even though he's never doing them at the same time since he's playing it. Though there's a point where he does let in a little yelp because of the magic of overdubs. But yeah.
Dan will probably appreciate this reference, but when the weird oboe stuff was going on, I was reminded of that scene in Star Trek Enterprise when T'Pol discovered jazz and she was kind of like freaking out about it.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Oh, yeah, there's
I've watched too much Star Trek. I don't remember that.
there's so much of it. But yeah, there's an episode where she like sneaks off the Vulcan embassy and goes into like a nightclub, and she's just sitting there like listening to the jazz and she's freaking out about it because jazz probably doesn't make sense to a Vulcan.
This song also has one of my favorite lyrics in the whole thing. When the devil comes, we'll shoot him with a gun.
My alternate title for this song was Ducks Locked in an Iron Maiden. I was reminded a lot of, there's a Fleet Foxes track called An Argument, which is basically just two saxophones and or horns, I don't know which is which, basically just kind of screaming at each other for like 2 or 3 minutes straight. It makes zero sense, and it's very like off-putting, but it reminded me a lot of that. Also, another vocalist that he was channeling in this track, I feel, was Bon Scott. I got a little bit of my balls are always bouncing. It's kind of immediately I was like, cocking my head, so to speak.
And then next track, Street Waves. Steve, you said this one was your favorite off this side?
Yeah, that was my favorite off this side.
Mine too.
I really like the distorted surf-ish guitar mixed with the UFO noises. The driving beat was just something I could easily latch onto. And the way that they mixed the vocals in this one, I think worked the best for his vocal style.
Yeah. And then my favorite part of this song, and the reason why it's my favorite on this side, is the part where they kind of do like a breakdown where things get a little quiet and slower for a little while.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Then at the end, like everything cuts out, and then I wanna die, and then like everything just kicks back in. Yeah. It was like, he made like great use of just like using his voice to do like just something furious and weird. He gets better control of his voice as the albums go by, but like I think there's just something primal and urgent about the way he does it here. Last track of the side, Chinese Radiation.
Interesting title. Not sure what that was referring to, but it starts off to me almost a normal song, and I was like, okay, this is feeling kind of cool. And then the synths come in.
Yeah.
And they're not so bad in terms of like pulling you out of the gentleness of the song, the way that it starts anyway, at least in my mind. I'm coming from a very new agey, very gentle ambient music background, so that's kind of the first thing I tend to latch onto. But these synths, even though it feels like they were trying to be something specific, almost like falling bombs, they also had this mellow kind of feel to them, almost like a lullaby. Like, we're going to bomb you, but you're just going to fall asleep, and it's going to be okay.
One of my notes was the bomb drop noise by the synth is something that I particularly liked.
Yeah, like this one, I know, like, David Thomas has said the music isn't political. This one seemed political to me. Not necessarily anything like that was said in the lyrics, but I don't know, calling it Chinese radiation, the sound of the bomb drop, feels very Cold War. And then, like, there's a part where they're using, like, a tape loop of crowd noise, and Dave Thomas is doing his, like, madman type of thing. And it sounds like he's giving a speech at a rally to a crowd to, like, whip up a frenzy into war. This felt like a political song.
It's funny you mentioned that because the last thing I put is it sounds like you're at a rally being led by a madman in the middle. So
Yeah.
you know, I was even thinking of, like, I don't know, the scenes in the Pink Floyd movie where he goes like full fascist in The Wall. Like, I was getting like some of those like get him up against the wall kind of vibes, except he wasn't like saying anything like that.
Yeah.
Though, so
Yeah, I got the same Pink Floyd thing popped in my head, and I just started thinking of, you know, if you don't get some it. That's kind of the feel that I got there.
This album came out before The Wall, though.
Did it really?
Yeah. This came out in 78.
When did The Wall come out?
79.
Yeah.
Really? I thought The Wall was like 73.
Yeah.
Wow. My dates are off.
Yeah,
Trust Dave on that, not me.
much like you, I really like the chill, like, acoustic playing on that. I wasn't really expecting that from this group. And then I like the switch to like a more like 60s style rock and roll song. I thought the piano outro was kind of weird, but not in like a way that I disliked. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting choice, and I'm not quite sure what they're trying to do with it, but I like felt it while listening to it. So I think a lot of this isn't like trying to convey a message more so much like as a feeling too, which I think is maybe that's what David Thomas meant by it's not political. It's all about, you know, like he's not trying to tell anyone anything. He's just trying to convey a mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's always interesting to think about what musicians were trying to accomplish with their songs. And sometimes it's like they're trying not to accomplish something. Like they're trying so hard to not let it be about anything specific that it almost becomes about something specific, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like you say, I'm going to make a song about nothing. Well, you're making a song about something because it's about nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, like, eventually, by about their third album, he became less rebellious and kind of rediscovered his faith he was raised with as a Jehovah's Witness. Ooh. And the songs become kind of pastoral and about, like, birds and animals by, like, their fourth album. And
why don't we do one of those?
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like one you should have brought for Dan.
Yeah.
Next season.
Yeah. But it's interesting.
This gets me out of my comfort zone, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
But they've gone through a lot of phases because then, like, after they got to that point is when they, like, broke up for a while and then got back together and became in a setup that would make you think that they would be a lot heavier, but they played, like, late 80s kind of pop, kind of like moody pop. It's like, it reminds me a lot of The Cure at that point, if that makes sense. And then after they get through that, they get kind of more back to, you know, like this kind of, they call their genre avant-garage. And so
I love that.
they get back to that point at the end. It's just kind of where they still are at. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The third and final vocalist that I thought he was channeling in this song specifically was, for a second, I swear I was listening to David Byrne. And I was thinking, And then you mentioned David Byrne, Talking Heads. So I didn't know if David himself had been influenced by this guy or if he came out before this guy.
He started before Talking Heads started, but they were, I would consider them more contemporaries than anything else.
Gotcha.
Because I doubt Talking Heads were very familiar with what was going on in Cleveland when they were first playing CBGBs. I think by this point, 1978, they were definitely both on each other's radar. But because, like, by this point, Pere Ubu was also playing in CBGBs, so they were.
But not by the point, not from the standpoint of David Byrne was sitting there listening to these guys on the radio and thought, I think I'm going to sing like that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was a very striking similarity there for a second.
Yeah, both non-traditional singers figuring out how to how to incorporate their voice
kind
into
of that
music.
Back of the throat kind of.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I got out of it.
And so, yeah, that was the first side. This is not an album where the second side falls off, in my opinion. The other side of the album has my two favorite songs on the album, and it also has the weirdest song on the album, which I'll have a story about after we listen to this. And it also has the only song written by their recently departed lead guitar player. So we'll talk more about him after we listen to it. But yeah, this was side one. Now we're gonna switch over to side B and see you in a little bit.
All right, flip it.
Flip it. I gotta pee.
Now we are.
All right, and we're back. That was side 2 of The Modern Dance by Pere Ubu. Guys, what'd you think?
I think I liked that side more than side 1 overall.
I do too.
It had a lot more things that I liked overall. It had a lot more experimentation. It also had like a really energetic rock song. It had like a really like chill down moment. And then the penultimate song, just we'll talk. I'll talk about it more when we get to it. But
I have a great story about that song.
I just love the atmosphere of that one. But yeah, overall, really engaged with all the stuff on this side, even more than I was with the stuff on side 1.
Yeah,
and I really appreciated the weirdness.
Yeah, the more eclectic side works for an eclectic band. Yeah, Dan, what do you think?
I agree with Steve. It felt more atmospheric to me, more intentional. Definitely felt like it was more sure of itself in terms of its direction. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but that's the feeling that I got.
It's interesting. Like the 2 singles off this album were off side 1, which were Modern Dance and Street Waves, which were 2 of the stronger tracks on the first side. Mm-hmm. But for me, yeah, the standouts, my favorite tracks are on side 2. It's the one when I think of this album, like the songs that immediately spring to my mind are all in the back.
Yeah, I think Life Stinks probably could have made a good single off of this record. I'm surprised they didn't pick that one.
Yeah, that one is one of my favorites. That one is interesting, too. I said that there was one song on this written by Peter Laffner, the original lead guitar player. That was him. So, yeah, it's the punkiest song off the album. He was the punkiest member the band ever had. He was the one who died from trying to live like Lou Reed, or how Lou Reed portrayed his life. That one's really good. It's fun. It's funny. Like, it's just rhyming as many words with stinks as possible. Like, life stinks. I need a drink. I'm on the brink. I like the kinks. You know, just like rattling them off. Yeah, that one is just really strong. And then, like, the weird, like, noise breakdown in the middle is amazing. I love every part of that whole thing. It's raw. It's furious, but it also doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a lot of fun.
It seems like something you might hear like on an early Nirvana album. I kind of felt like, or even like sometimes when Dave Grohl gets really punky in the Foo Fighters, he'll have a song like that, like White Limo on Wasted Light. Kind of reminded me of that a bit.
Oh yeah, Nirvana were definitely aware of this band.
Yeah, the vocals at some point sounded like a screaming guitar solo in and of themselves, which, as someone who loves to mess around with vocals and be weird with them, as weird as possible, or some might say obnoxious, I definitely appreciated that myself and made me want to go home and bust out my mic.
Yeah.
Sweet.
The bass, I still can't figure it out. It's going to drive me nuts, but when the bass kicked in, it reminded me of another song, and I cannot think of what it was for the life of me.
What's interesting about this song too is this song is the only, at this point, like, they'd recorded pretty much all of the leftover Rocket from the Tomb songs as their early singles as they wanted to, except for this song. This one was a leftover Rocket song. But an interesting thing about that is for the brief period between when Peter Laffner quit the band and when he died, he took this song with him. And in the band that he briefly formed that never recorded anything and only played a few shows, Tony Mimoni was his bass player. So this was the song that the bass player probably knew going in too, because he'd played it with his old band with a former member. Their original bass player was named Tim Wright. He joined initially along with Peter and David when they first started Pere Ubu. He was like the sound guy from Rocket from the Tombs. And they asked him if he wanted to join the band on either bass or guitar. And while Tony never played a 6-string guitar, Tim couldn't decide whether or not he wanted to learn bass or guitar for the band. So he got a 6-string bass. So their early stuff is like 2 guitars, really, really heavy 6-string bass, And one of the reasons why I said like that early live show wasn't one of their best ones is because they slowed it down a lot, because between Tom, Peter, and Tony, they all kept trading instruments. Like, okay, on this one, Peter's gonna play the 6-string bass, so Tim's gonna have to take it off and play guitar, and so there's just like a lot of dead air in that concert, which is one of the reasons why I've put my foot down after listening to that. Like, hey, not too many instrument changes for live sets.
Was that a 6-string bass, like a bass 6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite weird instruments.
At some point, I think I'm going to get the LP. I have the CD, so maybe I'll just bring back that. It really is. It really sounds like a different band when Peter and Tim are in the band. And then, yeah, Tony brings a lot to it, and Tom really steps up when he's down to being the only guitar player. Those early singles are interesting, and it would have been cool if Peter laughed. No?
Yeah.
He was an asshole for trying to emulate Lou Reed, and he died way too young because of it, but he was a unique talent.
How did he die?
Liver failure at age 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 24. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. He didn't even make it to the 27 club. Man.
No. But yeah, Life Stinks, and then a brief history of Peter Laffner with that. It's funny, though, like, if you look on Pere Ubu's website, there's a section about Peter Laffner, and at some point, you know, like Dave Thomas even says, I'm kind of sick of talking about him. People ask me questions about him a lot. He was a guy. He was a human. You shouldn't idolize him. You should see him as a person and see what happened to him as sad. Not necessarily, yeah. So it's interesting. Next track was Real World, which was one of my favorites too. Depending on what mood I'm in, sometimes it's my favorite song on the album. It's not usually, but so it's definitely like among my favorites.
Yeah, I'm trying to pick between that song, Life Stinks, and Street Waves as my favorite on the album. That one, just, I love square wave synths.
Yeah.
I love how much they were using them, and it sounds like the song was drunk, and it sounded like two robots having sex. And I like how it falls apart at the end.
Yeah.
So a Lucid Fugue song, basically.
Yeah. This is some of my favorite like I think this is my favorite synth work on the album, and I love the synth on every single song, but this one's just interesting. He's playing the keyboard a little more than he is, but he's still doing weird things with the knobs, just like that bouncing square wave, the way the bass bounces along with it. All the instruments are like doing the best they can, and yeah, it's kind of weirdly, the vocal melody is weirdly catchy. The out in the real world in real time. Yeah. Speak, sing. Yeah, it's an amazing, just bizarre song.
Yep, really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably my favorite as well. Definitely more synths that I could tell influenced you, Dave. A lot of Dick influence there.
Yeah.
My first thought was when that bass kicked in. And I'm a firm believer in visualizing sounds as actual physical things. And what I visualized with the bass was a muddy river.
Yeah.
Just a nice muddy river just flowing on down, you know. And not one that you're like, ooh, a muddy river, but more like, this takes me back.
Yeah.
You know? It's a muddy river. And then right after I thought that, he said out in the real world, and I knew he was saying real world, but it sounded like he was saying river, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
What? Out in the river. What I noticed I was trying to figure out what his vocals were making me think of. And you know, when you're a kid and you get really, really super excited about something, you almost run out of breath. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what he sounds like he's singing. Like he's just about to explode with that childlike excitement of, oh, my cousins are here, I get to play with them.
Yeah.
I like
think,
that.
yeah, I think he tries to breathe in weird places to get like the delivery
Yeah.
to be the way it is.
And his vibrato is very like almost on the verge of just giddy insanity, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's an affectation or if that's just really how his voice was, but either way, it was distinct.
He stopped doing this by the time he was in Pere Ubu, but in the early days when he was singing in Rocket from the Tombs, he like stole a choir robe from his parents' Jehovah's Witness. I don't remember what they call their places of worship, but church, and would like wear it on stage and get as sweaty as possible in it, and would like had long hair and like whip his head around and be like flinging sweat all over the rest of the band and across the stage.
And then take it back and, why is my robe so smelly?
Then next track was Over My Head, which is the chillest song on the album. This is just one that you can kind of groove to, just kind of sit back and let it wash over you. It also has one of my favorite guitar solos on the album, though when you get to the end, just...
Interesting that you mentioned groove, because that's the one word that I wrote down for real world, is that felt like a groove to me. Over My Head did as well, but of a different kind of groove. This definitely was groovy. It was chill. I can imagine that a lot of pretentious people were like, "Oh man, you gotta smoke weed to this song. You got it'll change your life, man." Yeah. But not in a bad way. But yeah, definitely more ambient, more atmospheric. The there was some at one point.
Yeah, the rest of the band just harmonizing.
Yeah. It just sounded like a funeral dirge for an introverted goth queen who died in her basement after sleeping on cold concrete.
Yes, perfect.
That was my thought at the moment.
Yeah, I wrote deceptively chill because the entire song I was expecting something to come and jar me, and it never really happened. But
yeah, even the guitar solo match.
Yeah. I would say overall a good way to break up the side, especially given what comes next.
Yeah.
I put maybe a little boring while actively listening, but I think that's just because we're sitting here and just like listening. I'm if I was just casually listening, I don't know if I'd have that same thought.
Yeah, I really like it, and like at the point where I think it might be going a little too long, the guitar solo comes in. It's like, oh, okay, this has re-engaged my...
So Dave, I'm curious to think what you felt like was their intention with that song, or lack of intention per se, and what that song either makes you feel or what you feel like when you want to listen to that song. Like, what mood are you in? Is it anarchic? Is it apathetic? Or is it just like, I want to... When you sit down and when you want to listen to this specific song, what is going on in your head?
To me, this is the relaxing song.
Okay.
This is the song that I could... Like, most of this album isn't the kind of album that I could listen to while reading.
Gotcha.
That one I could.
You could? Okay.
Yeah.
Does it depend on the reading material or just anything?
Just anything. I can't do a lot...
Good night, Moon.
Yeah. I can't do a lot of listening to like music with vocals while reading because it becomes distracting. Like the music and the book are fighting for my attention.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This particular song, I feel like
Okay.
Relaxing, end of the day. Also, like kick off your boots. You don't want the energy of say Life Stinks or Street Waves. Just kind of chill.
Right.
Crack a beer, unfasten your belt, and just kind of lay down on the couch after work.
Go into oblivion mode for a minute.
Yeah.
Or 10, however long the song was.
Like 3, probably.
Yeah. Broken Bottles, lots of broken bottles. There's a Swerve Driver song, happens to be one of my favorite Swerve Driver songs, where the vocalist mentions, "There's all these broken bottles on the floor." And now I know where they came from.
Oh, yeah. Getting into the next song, Sentimental Journey.
Oh, I skipped ahead too far, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sentimental Journey. That's also a slow and quiet song, but not really quiet, but like slower, it's quiet in moments, slower, longer, sit with it type of song for a while, but it is it's not chill like Over My Head. Like the sounds of like bottles and pottery breaking, the weird synth noise. Yeah, I said I had a good story about this, and here it is. One time I was picking up friends from the airport, and you know what it's like to pick up people from the airport. Mm. You get there, you drive by the whole thing because you're not sure which gate it is at first, but you're going really slow. Then you kind of circle around, you pull into the circle around again, then you just sit there for a while you wait for them to get their luggage. Anyway, one time I was picking up some friends from the airport and I was listening to this album. I didn't plan this at all, but when they got into the car, that was the song it was on. And my friend was like, "What are you listening to? What is going on?" Because it was just, like the synth being the weirdest the synth is on this album, and the bottles breaking.
Yeah.
And it's a rock, it's a home.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And of course, she sat up and went, "I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Let me tell you all about it."
This is Pere Ubu. This is one of my favorite bands. This is just a mood for me. And my other friend who knew me a little better, who I was also picking up, was like, "Yeah, this is what happens when you get in David's car."
That needs to be your airport picking up people theme song for the rest of your life.
Just every single time.
Yeah.
All right, everybody out there in the audience, just whenever you're picking up somebody from the airport, put on Sentimental Journey by Pere Ubu. Your passengers will thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or curse you, or both.
I ended up putting in my notes that it sounds like something you'd hear in like the background of like a really low budget horror movie, like a black and white one. And I was just picturing like somebody, I don't know, kind of like Buffalo Bill or something, who's just like has like a victim down in a pit or something, and he's just like ranting at them.
It's a rug. It's a home.
Yeah.
Put the lotion in the basket.
And the synth sounded like an Atari 2600 that's like dying.
Yeah, it sounded like
Kill me.
It sounded like a circuit bending experiment that was about to be over because it wouldn't last any longer.
Yeah. And and I also put, I want to cut this together with clips of Tommy Wiseau freaking out in the room before he kills himself.
What's interesting too is like once I was browsing their website, the ubuprojects.com, and David was responding to a listener question. He was talking about like listeners talking about, you know, like listening to this song and like really getting into it and like really feeling it and like feeling like isolated and scared and just like everything going on. Then his like 4-year-old son came into the room and like heard it and started laughing. And David's response to that was like, both you and your son had the right response to the song.
Ah, yes. That makes sense.
You can really read it as either. Then the last track. This one is my favorite most of the time.
Really?
If you ask me what my favorite song on this album is, I will usually say Humor Me.
But it's just a joke, man.
It's just a joke, man. This one is about Peter Laffner. I don't know if that's been officially confirmed, but it's been pretty much decided by fans. It's about, there's like lyrics, you know, what a world, what a big world, what a world to be drowned in. And another day to suffer. Well, that's the way of the West. Suffer. So, like, this is about a friend who died recently and all the conflicting emotions of him having died while they were not necessarily on the best of terms, and while they had worked so well together creatively very recently, and just like you can hear the bitterness in the delivery of "It's just a joke, man." It's life is the joke in this. It's an angry, nihilistic song, and it's the one that stands out to me the most. In my opinion, this is the most punk rock song on the album, even more than "Life Stinks." Just
Interesting take.
yeah, it's just.
Musically, it didn't hit me that way, but thematically, yes, I would have to agree. But
and again, shout out to Tom Herman's solo in it. That was just a kick-ass solo, and I like the way it changed like halfway through. Boo doo 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 doo. Yeah, that was just a really cool song.
yeah.
More material for my a cappella remix I'm going to make out of all those loops. Humor Me, I thought it was incredibly weird, which I really like the vibe of that, especially, like, you had to close this album out with something incredibly weird. So I thought it was kind of a really good coda to Sentimental Journey. And the synth on it sounded really alien, and I just really liked that.
Yeah, it had kind of like that theremin UFO quality to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Ravenstein never played a theremin, but their current synth player does. So, yeah, you can do the same kind of thing.
Life.
Just a joke. Another day to suffer.
Just an absurdist. Who's the guy that does the painting with the splotches? Who's that guy? Splotch painting. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, which one?
Oh, just all of them. Who did the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy? He was like, if you blacklight my thing, it'll look like a certain painting. What is it? Oh, what was his name? Oh, darn it. I think his name started with an R. Kevin Pollak. Not Kevin Pollak.
Jackson Pollock. There we go. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson Pollock. This is definitely the kind of band for Jackson Pollock fans. Yeah. It's kind of like kind of abstract. You kind of have to, you know, rewards re-listens too.
Yeah, splatters on a wall.
Yeah, which I'm sure, like, all the things I was pointing out at the lyrics, you guys as first-time listeners just didn't catch. But me, who has...
And clearly done your research on it as well.
But yeah, any concluding thoughts about the album from you guys?
Overall, I found it to be really enjoyable. I think it would be a hard listen for most people that aren't into arty experimental stuff. And even, I think, a lot of people that might be turned off by a lot of the stuff on this. But I think if you enter this album with like an open mind and subvert some of your personal comforts, there are a lot of rewarding experiences on this album that make it worth listening to.
It's quite a few riffs that I really felt myself drawn to, and I enjoyed the musicianship behind those, and also the desire to make something that had a little more of an atmospheric bent to it. It doesn't have to be necessarily noise, so to speak, as some might think that this would be. Some less cultured people, or maybe more mainstream people, might think of this as more noise than music, but those moments led me to believe that they weren't necessarily going for that, and it was something a little more artsy, you know?
Yeah.
Again, like a Jackson Pollock painting, where some people could look at it and go, it just looks like a mess, but other people can look at it and go, yeah, but it's a beautiful mess.
Yeah. Oh, another fun piece of trivia about this band is when Jello Biafra ran for mayor of San Francisco, he decided to run for mayor while he was at a Pere Ubu concert, and he was standing at the bar in the back while this epiphany hit them, and he wrote down his initial, like, platform on a bar napkin.
Was it during Chinese radiation?
I hope so. He hasn't said what song.
Somebody's gonna fix this!
All right, somebody get Jello Biafra to confirm that he was listening to it during Chinese radiation. Oh, we'll get Nardwar to do it, because you know how much he loves Nardwar.
Yeah. I wonder if Nardwar has ever talked to these guys.
I don't know.
Yeah. Should
Quick
figure it out.
question.
Be cool if he did.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Nardwar?
That
Forgive my ignorance, but...
that is a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look up Nardwar on YouTube sometime. He does music interviews, and a lot of people hate him.
Nardwar, the human serviette.
Yeah. He's
Canadian
one of those you
journalist
either
and
love him
musician.
or hate him kind of guys, and I fucking love him. I think he's great because like he pisses off so many people by just being him, but like
This guy here.
yeah, that guy, yeah, with his hat, Tamasham or something.
Yeah.
I probably butchered that, but anyway, it's funny when he gets like somebody that's like openly hostile to him, and then like by the end of the interview, like they come to like kind of respect him because he just knows everything about a musician before he goes to interview him.
Yeah.
And he did this in a time period where it was probably really hard to find like information like that.
Yeah. Looks like
He still does that. He's still working. Like, I saw a video of him interviewing Emil and the Sniffers, and he was giving them like gifts of like records from all these Australian bands that were important to them as children, and they loved him. Like, people love him now. Like, more people hated him back in the heyday. Like, I think there's a point where everyone started to like him more when Sonic Youth was especially rude to him in an interview, and everyone kind of felt bad for him. But yeah, now people tend to like him more. But yeah.
I really thought it was funny how he ended up becoming big in like the rap community. Like he interviews like all the big rappers, and they all like love him. Like I've seen so many pictures of like big rappers like with
Snoop.
him.
I just saw a picture of him with Snoop.
Yeah.
Snoop loves him. Yeah.
That makes sense.
My favorite interview from him is the two that he did with Henry Rollins, like a decade apart. The first time, which I think was in '98, like he fucking hated him. Like you could tell he just wanted to like fucking like deck him until about the middle of the interview when he asked like a really good interview question. He's like, well, all right, well, since you've asked me something like that, I'm going to go ahead and answer all these questions. But yeah.
I can't hate you anymore now.
Well, then the second one,
a soup can cock for Henry Rollins.
Yeah. And then the second one, Henry's much more amicable from like the get-go, because I think he'd kind of figured out. Yeah.
Well, and during the first one, immediately after it starts filming, he goes, "Oh, you're playing a character now." So I almost wonder what he was like right before they turned the camera on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the funny thing about that second interview is you could tell Henry still didn't like him. Like he was trying his hardest to tolerate him, but he just looked miserable the whole time. And maybe he was miserable for some other reason, but
well, Henry's mellowed with age and tries to be nicer than he was in like 1998.
Yeah, like a lot.
But you can tell that the same stuff kind of pisses him off a lot of the time.
We need to like
He doesn't suffer fools gladly.
I want to be interviewed by Nardwar. That's like a career goal. So
Yeah.
if
fun.
Nardwar, if you see this,
Interview us,
we'll road trip to Vancouver, Canada to be interviewed by you.
Yeah, I need to renew my passport, but we will book one gig in Vancouver if we can't swing a full tour because we have real jobs.
We'll even recycle our pee to drink so we can save some money on the trip.
Yeah. I can get I have good public service. So yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
You didn't
I
mute your
should mute
phone?
my phone.
in the episode I just edited, there's an iPhone goes off in it, and every single time, because I have to listen to it like 100 times in a row, I hear it and I'm like, huh? What? Oh, did I get a text? All right, well, fellas, that was an album.
Yes, it was.
Dan, you are in Lucid Fugue with us, but you do other music, so we're going to have a plug for Lucid Fugue and all the music that Steve and I do built into the end bumper automatically, but you should...
Oh, okay. Well, I am, for about almost 20 years now. It'll be my 20-year anniversary next year. I have had my own instrumental project called Shrouded Day. I kind of think of it as the modern-day Mannheim Steamroller in a lot of ways. A little less cheesy, a little more maybe accessible by younger people's standards. I've really been enjoying that. I've about to come out with my seventh album, I don't remember, called Photonia, and it's going to be my techno style kind of beat heavy album. Just nothing but.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
So yeah, a lot of weird stuff on there, but also a lot of just hopefully infectious, dancey type songs, which is not my normal style.
I'll tell a funny Shrouded Day story. So
I didn't know there were those.
There are.
Oh,
well, this one is about
they're
our meeting when we played that house show in Rob's basement. And
what a memorable day that
was.
was.
we threw it together last minute. That's also where I met Pete. So, we've come to find out that Rob, the original Megaton bass player, is kind of like, I don't know, he's like the temporal glue between all of us. Like, if you went back in time and erased him, like, it's a good chance none of us would have ever met.
It's just funny because none of us really talk to him anymore.
He's a fixed point in time.
Yeah. Well, perhaps we will invite him on for something, because I think he lives here again. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
That's my Rob impression. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
I impress people. I do impressions that people would love. So,
But yeah, so we threw this show together last minute, and I remember it was, Megaton, which sludge metal, some like, I don't know, were they like mathcore or something?
What was their name? They were just a bunch of kids. Is that the one you're talking about?
The Evil That Men Do. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, they
yes.
were in their like early 20s, I think. One of them like just came into the gas station that I worked at the time. So I was just like, you want to play a show? He's like, oh yeah. So
that's how it came to be. I did not know that. That's crazy.
But my favorite part is like, I think they all showed up like while you were playing, or and I just remember everybody was just hypnotized by your performance, is what I remember. And Dave, the drummer, not this Dave, he told me that he was outside when you started. So he walks in completely high off his ass, not expecting new age flute music. And he said it was too much for him. He had to go back outside.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So, yeah, and I don't know. Over the years, I've put Shrouded Day on like a number of shows that I've put on, and I think you've become known in the circle as the guy that does master puppets on the flute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I love doing. It's so fun.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, if you like this album, you'd like Shrouded Day. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, all right. Well, that was everything.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's
Yep.
been fun.
Yeah, and everyone should listen to Pere Ubu. If it doesn't
Yes.
click with you right away, give it some time.
Yeah, go in with no expectations and let it wash over you, as they say.
Yeah, this has been Side 1, Side B with Dave and Steve. Catch you on the flip side.
Peace out.
album that would be really fun, and it's terrible, would be the Vanilla Ice new metal album.
That did in fact exist.
Oh my God, it did.
Yeah, he was trying to pivot, and everyone thought he was corny because he was. So he tried to pivot into hard.
Side 1, Side B is a Floof Goof Studios production. Check us out on the interwebs by going to my website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOCK music.com. And there's a tab for Side 1, Side B. And additionally, you can check out me and Dave's projects, The Alliterates and Lucid Fugue, respectively. You can also check us out on Instagram at KillRockMusicSWS and Dave_Diction. Thank you. Waka waka. Suck it. What's up?
Let's shut the fuck up.
We're gonna choke you.